It was a Wednesday evening and Chris had been in the kitchen preparing dinner for the family. Noika, Anya and I were sitting on the couch together, the girls watching some show on TV, while I, as usual, was engrossed in a book checked out from the library, located 2 blocks from the small home we'd moved into a few years back. Our daughters, both of whom had stopped referring to me as Steve and now called me Dad, had just turned 16. When Chris and I had suggested that they throw a sweet 16 birthday party and invite all their friends over to the house to celebrate the occasion, we were summarily set straight by our teens just being teens. Yeah, why not just kill us and get it over with? They still spoke in that telepathic-like speech pattern where Anya would begin the sentence, Noika would fill in the middle, and the 2 twins would conclude it in unison. It also still amazed me equally as much as I adored hearing their precious patter, but not as much as when I heard them include the word Dad into whatever they were saying. I loved my wife, I loved Chris's daughters, and I loved our family. I had neither ever been so happy, nor could I imagine ever being happier. Life was good. Occasionally from the kitchen we'd hear exclamations of, "Oh! No! Ouch! Ow! Sranje!" That last one is a Croatian word for shit. Chris and I had agreed early on that if we didn't want to raise the children to grow up swearing like sailors in a bar on their first day of shore leave, that we would lead by example and never swear in front of them, or at least not in English. And since I wasn't fluent in Croatian, much less any other language, I now chose Sranje as my go-to curse of choice. That was the only word I was aware of from her native language which she used in front of us when she felt the inclination to sling an expletive or 2 around. I once asked Chris if she ever used any other Croatian obscenities during our last 12 years together. Placing a hand on each side of my face while staring intently into my eyes, she breathlessly whispered, "Steve, what did you think I was saying when we were making love, or when I'd get angry with you? Would you like me to translate now?" "No, dear. Let's just both keep a little mystery in our marriage so as to spice things up a bit, shall we?" When I said things like that, she'd usually laugh that girlish laughter I love so much, and then kiss me on my always ready to be kissed by her cheek. That woman actually found me witty, and for the life of me, I'll never know why. "Sounds like Mum's fighting again with the pots and pans or the oven," the twins commented from the couch where we sat after one particularly loud utterance of "Sranje!" from the kitchen. "That's just the process your mother employs when her culinary opponents place her in a headlock," I replied, and to which they responded with peals of laughter the way their mum would. We were, indeed, a family. It was a minute or 2 after that last oath the 3 of us were startled by what sounded like a long, loud moan followed by a terrible crash. Running into our kitchen, we found Chris face up on the floor. Her entire body would tense, then relax, as if she were being electrocuted, and each period of tension in between those of relaxation grew more prolonged with every invisible jolt shocking her. At first we all just stood in the doorway doing nothing, paralysed by confusion and fear. I said nary a word as the sensation of watching something that couldn't be real was freezing my mind to a standstill. And then the twins screamed, "I'll call 911. I'll get Dr. Shantz from next door. Dad, go help Mum, now!" The sound of urgency in their voices jettisoned me into the reality of the seriousness of this situation. Rushing to where Chris was convulsing on the floor, and as I knelt down, I desperately tried to recall whatever I knew regarding helping someone having a seizure. And it was not only precious little to remember, but it had probably been something picked up from watching television or films. The back of her head began slamming against the tiled floor surface, so I held it firmly between my knees to prevent Chris from cracking her skull, or worse. From where I knelt I could see a large wooden spoon on the tabletop next to us. After grabbing it, I wedged it between her jaws, because I'd heard, but did not know if it was true, you should do that to prevent someone from biting off their tongue. And you know what? The only thought I had while doing all of this was, oh my God, it's the first time I could ever remember Anya and Noika doing anything independent of each other. Anya, who was the first to return to the kitchen, said, 911's on the way, Dad. Should I go and check on Noika and Dr. Shantz? Before I could answer, Noika, along with Gus Shantz, entered the room. It was wonderful to have a doctor and a good drinking buddy who lived next door when you have an emergency. Even before Gus could inquire, Anya reiterated the information about the awaited ambulance. He then asked for details that led to this event, of which we had precious few to share. Being a proficient practitioner, Gus had brought along his large black leather doctor bag, which always appeared to accompany a physician on TV. From another small case within it, he removed a syringe and a small vial. Drawing out a dose of whatever was in the vial, I was instructed to move away, as he then stuck the needle in Chris's neck. In less than a minute she lay unconscious, but appeared to be at rest. Next he checked her pulse, pupils, then heart rate, and by that time Anya and Noika were letting the EMS team into our house. Steve, go out and stay with the girls. They need you, and we need to do our jobs, so just stay with them in the other room for now. I was about to argue how I wanted to be next to my wife, but before I could, Lorraine, who was Gus's wife, had arrived. Taking me by the hand, I was led into the room where Chris's daughters sat silent and pale. Don't worry, girls. Dr. Shantz will take good care of your mum, Lorraine told them. Now, tell me, what happened? She was cooking supper. Heard a sound and a crash. Then we found her on the floor. Steve, do you know anything else? Oh, God. Chris had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer about 6 months ago. She'd been undergoing therapy. Blessedly, she had few side effects, outside of a bit of exhaustion, and 1 or 2 minor issues her oncologist told us were normal during treatments, and that the lack of other adverse effects were a good sign. Sranye, Dad, why didn't you or Mum say any? What the fuck were you thinking? Your mum didn't want us to worry about her, so she made me promise not to tell you. She didn't want to worry anyone, so we told no one, not even the Shantzes. Well, epic. Fail, Dad. Fucking epic fucking fail. While we spoke, the EMS crew had gone to their ambulance and returned with a collapsible gurney. As they wheeled Chris out of the house on their wobbly-wheeled collapsible contraption, Gus rejoined us. He told Lorraine to take Anya and Noika over to their place for a while, and I was to go to the hospital with him in his car. Silently, we all did as told, the twins leaving with Lorraine and me taking the shotgun seat in Gus's red Toyota. Locking our seatbelts, then turning the ignition key to start the vehicle, my friend placed a hand on my left shoulder. With sadness affecting his normally steady tone of voice, he turned to me and said the 6 words that would forever alter my family's life. Steve, the prognosis is not good.